Welcome to Literary and Jury Charge Practice. We are going to start out today with this short paragraph, and the title of the paragraph is Etymology. So I thought maybe we would look that word up in the dictionary. I have my trusty dictionary here. And etymology, the definition of etymology: the history of a linguistic form as a word, shown by tracing its development since its earliest recorded occurrence in the language where it is found. So etymology, the history of a linguistic form as a word. All right. So we will try this paragraph. Ready? Here we go. Sometimes it is necessary for you to get right down to business. You have an important project in the works to finish. Does your project have a deadline for completion? Today, when we talk about a deadline, we are talking about a specified date or time by which a report or a payment of money or a shipment must be delivered or submitted. If this doesn't happen, dire consequences may result from the failure to meet the deadline. Many years ago, a dead line was a literal or figurative line that was drawn around the perimeter of a prison camp. An escaping prisoner who crossed that line could expect to be shot dead. So a little history there on dead line, actually two words, and then eventually it became one word with a pretty much completely different meaning. So kind a little fascinating. All right. Now let's try some jury charge practice. Ready? Here we go. During the trial, do not speak to a defendant, witness, lawyer, or anyone associated with them. Do not listen to anyone who tries to talk to you about the case or anyone about any of the people or any subject involved in it. If someone happens to ask you about the case, tell him or her that you cannot discuss it. If that person keeps talking to you about the case, you must end the conversation. If you receive any information about this case from any source outside of the trial, even unintentionally, do not share that information with any other juror. If you do receive such information, or if anyone tries to influence you or any juror, you must immediately report it to the bailiff. Keep an open mind during the trial and throughout the trial. Do not make up your mind about the verdict or any issue until after you discussed the case with the other jurors during deliberations. Do not take anything I say or do during the trial as an indication of what I believe about the facts, the witnesses, or what your verdict should be. Do not let bias, sympathy, prejudice, or public opinion influence your decision. You must reach your verdict without any consideration of punishment. I want to emphasize you may not use any form of research or communication, including electronic or wireless research or communication, to research, share, communicate, or allow someone else to communicate with you regarding any subject of the trial. If you violate this rule, you may be subject to jail time, a fine, or other punishment. Now for some literary material, a little literary practice, and the title of this article is Sherbet with No Artificial Ingredients. It's about words and a little bit, I guess, about the history of the word sherbet, sherbet. So along the same lines as etymology. Here we go. A few weeks back, I was reading a bedtime story to my elementary school daughter, Ananya, when we came across the word sherbet. It's spelled incorrectly. It should be sherbet, she said. I said, it's correct. That's how everyone in my class says it, she said. Never missing an opportunity to talk about a word, I launched into a little history lesson for sherbet. The word is from Arabic, but it took a scenic route to English. It stopped by Persian and Turkish before reaching the shores of the English language. In Arabic, Serbat is a drink. By the way, the word syrup is a cousin of this word. Knowledge is power. You can confirm the spelling with your dictionary, I said. But sherbet is right. Everyone in my class says sherbet, she said. With her insistence and majority logic, she unwittingly described how human languages really work. The biggest, the greatest, or the heaviest dictionaries are no match for public opinion when it comes to language. A language is a very democratic thing. It goes where its speakers take it. In spite of what many people believe, dictionaries are supposed to follow the language, not the other way around. In fact, that's exactly how dictionaries are made, by observing and recording how people are using words. Every time you say or write a word, whether it's cursing or a 3-page letter or a 1-line email, you are casting a vote for how language should move. You are marking a ballot for what a word should mean and how it should be pronounced. have to get back to that article. For now, let's try a little more jury charge practice. Ready? Here we go. You know, I always feel embarrassed when I read this because I feel like I'm lecturing you. I feel like I'm repeating myself. I feel like I'm dwelling on what is really obvious. You cannot do any research. And then in one of the most recent trials I did, I'm trying to remember, and I don't want to say too much about it, but one of the people, I guess it might have been the defendant, claimed that some things that he had put on his Facebook page were imaginary based on the fact that he was a rap artist, and it goes on. I won't give too many details, but he was quoting a rap song, and he mentioned the name of the rap song that he was quoting when he issued what might have otherwise been considered a threat. One of the jurors went home, Googled rap music and looked that up, and came back and talked to the other jurors about it. Don't do that, please. It was embarrassing to him. It was embarrassing to everyone else. I didn't hold anybody in contempt, but he was excused, and I had to seat an alternate. It's just something to please keep in mind that we are all here for one reason. It's really serious business. When you hear me joshing with the attorneys now and then, believe me, we do that sort of as a release in the fact we have known each other for years. We've been doing the same thing for many years, but this really is important stuff. Back to our study on the word sherbet or sherbet. Here we go. Ready? You can't see the effect over a year or two, but what are a couple of years when it comes to the flow of language? Over hundreds of years, the changes are easy to see. So how did we get from sherbet to sherbet? When we borrow a word from another language, we often naturalize its spelling and sound. In Italian, sherbet becomes sorbetto. In French, sorbet. There are not many everyday words in English that follow the pattern of sherbet, but there's plenty of company for the Bert ending: Herbert, Robert, Albert, Dilbert, etc. It may be tempting to think that the misspelling of this word is a new thing, but it has been with us for almost as long as the word has been around. The word sherbet landed in the English language about 400 years ago, and people were spelling it as sherbet soon after that. Many dictionaries list both spellings of the word, though some do look askance at the extra R. Sherbet or sherbet, it still is the same refreshing frozen dessert, or if you're in the United Kingdom, chilled drink. When it comes to purity, it's better to insist it's in the food than in the language. All right, let's try this literary. It's called Crack the Code to Pass the Test. Ready? Here we go. Cracking the code to tests and certifications is more than a metaphor. Expanding our vision and our goals are part of our path as keeper of the record, the historical conservator and protector of spoken words. If you are focused on changing your life, you are having internal conversations. As a tutor, coach, and CART provider, I truly believe that one can create and transform his or her goals. If you want to pass that test, it is not enough. You want to prepare with deliberate, focused intentions, with conscious actions. Now is the time to prepare your stimulus plan. And now is the time to hone your conscious and unconscious thoughts and actions to crack the code to pass your test. Recently, I received some requests on how to prepare from test takers for NCRA, California, Texas, Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, New York, and Arizona state examinations. I desire to gift you with tips, information to focus your internal compass. For 20 years, I have been honored to assist students and court reporters in earning their certifications. My students have been my greatest teachers. Thousands of students and reporters have accomplished huge goals, one step at a time. Sometimes someone will take only one tiny step, then there's a wobble. I firmly believe one step at a time awareness is where you find greatest progress. Even a step back is still a step. This awareness is essential to your code, your internal compass. Are you registered to take an NCRA or state test? Or maybe not yet, but soon? Are you enrolling in a court reporting program or home study? You now have an opportunity to stretch your boundaries. Stretching is good. Be gentle and remain focused on this goal, which is easier said than done, I know. Many students and working reporters can see and taste this lap while pedaling with an already busy schedule. Here I offer some tips to successfully crack your code. Tips I've used to coach many in your busy shoes. All right, that will conclude our literary and jury charge practice.